moderator for today's panel. I'm super excited about it, but first I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm Sofia. I said that already. I'm originally from Colombia, right? Woo! Some Latinos here? Yeah! Nice. I'm in my last year of artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's been like a very exciting adventure, very challenging as well, but I've loved it so far. So, as you know, we have our panel today, and we have this very amazing women here, and I'm gonna pass it over so they can introduce themselves. So please.
Hello, I'm Stéphanie. Probably it's the first time you are seeing me. I'm director of artificial intelligence. It's new. It's a new job, so I still need to process this stuff. And I work in AI since 2010. I worked in different industries, manufacturing, home automation, healthcare, gaming industry, research, academia. And that's it. I'm the lead organizer of Women Techmaker Montreal from this year, hopefully also for next year and the other years. And I'm very happy to be here. And don't be shy, please. We will reply to the questions that we have received during these days, but then we will ask for new questions.
Thank you so much. Stefania, please.
Hi, my name is Émilie, and I'm a game user researcher from the past 5 years now. And yeah, I'm super excited to talk about what I do, what I learned, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stella. I'm an electrical engineer. I've been working in STEM and high-tech fields for the last about 18 years. I've coded a lot despite my electrical engineering background. Started as an avionics system developer, and I'm now leading as director an electric aircraft conversion program for CAE.
Wow.
Hi everyone, my name is Stéphanie. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Technovation Montreal. It's a non-profit organization where we teach young girls from age 8 to 18 how to leverage technology to solve a problem in a community. So we offer after-school program in technology and entrepreneurship. And thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello everybody, my name is Pamela. I come from Mexico and I've been working as a character animator in films since 5 years ago here in Montreal, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Gracias.
Hello, my name is Virginie. For the last year, I have been a UI programmer in the video game industry, and I just got a job at Haven. So yeah, for that. So some people of Haven, they are very nice. Go talk to them. But previously, I was actually a machine learning specialist for a long time. So I kind of navigated from coding in C++ and coding in other languages for machine learning in my career. So I don't have like the perfect path for any job actually.
That's all good. Perfect. Thank you so much for introducing yourself, please. Actually, I realized that I forgot to say what was the topic of the panel, but it's all good. So, today's panel is Empowering Women's Stories of Growth and Transformation. So, of course, we have like a lot of experience here. I love the fact that there are like different backgrounds, so I feel like we can learn from like a lot of perspectives. So we're gonna start with the first question.
Bonjour, donc notre première question va être en français et elle va s'adresser surtout à Pamela et à Stéphanie. Donc, comment les entreprises et les gouvernements peuvent-ils s'assurer que les systèmes d'intelligence artificielle ne reproduisent pas ou n'amplifient pas les préjugés de genre existants?
I'm going to pass this to Stefania because I don't know about AI.
Okay, so just to make sure that also the English speakers can understand the questions, so can I just read? Okay, machine translation in me. So how the companies and also the governments can make sure that the AI systems will not increase the bias, the gender bias that are already in place. Okay, it's a very difficult question because I'm not a government. But what we can do is like, we are responsible to make sure that we can represent any gender. And at the moment it's very hard because we have a lot of data that is already in place, it has been used, and we have already a lot of models that have been used. Probably one thing that we can do, and also that will help companies and also organizations and governments, is to make sure that when we use AI, we can say, hey, something is not wrong. We need to be critical. We need to do our tests and say, okay, I would like not to use this product or this model or this algorithm because I feel that there is something that is missing. And probably the other thing that we can do is trying to make sure that when we create models, we try not to introduce any type of bias. And it's something that we are developing. It is something that any countries is trying to regulate with different laws. They are creating this right now. I will invite the person who asked these questions to go to the website of UNESCO because they are doing a great job about that, and they are trying to create a manifesto in order to introduce less bias, have an idea of what is responsible AI and also ethical AI.
Perfect, thank you so much. So the next question is, how can managers promote diversity and inclusion within their teams and organizations, particularly in male-dominated tech environments?
Thank you, Sophia. I think what's very important to understand is a company like where I'm at CAE right now, or other companies I've been at, whenever you post a job, you could get, between 30 or hundreds of CVs for the opening, right? And someone filters that for you and sends you over those CVs, and whatever they're basing it on, you're not necessarily aware of, right? So if as a manager or a director in engineering, you only get 10 CVs and they're all men, you can ask and you can say, well, can I see the entire database of people that applied? Can you filter it a little differently? Obviously, I'm not going to lie, the predominant amount of applicants will not be women. You're lucky when you have a handful in some of these jobs. But once you do meet the candidates, if you do select a woman, you also need to be very mindful of what happens when she starts that role, right? And you have to make sure the same opportunities are open to her for development. How is she being treated? The lady that was speaking just before about microaggressions, I've seen that. Sometimes the team can treat you differently, or other teams that you're working with on a daily basis. And let's not just blame the men here. I have seen, as an engineer, I have seen women that are not engineers in the company make comments like, oh, you can't fix my computer as well, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, and trust the male perspective more, right? So you need to be very mindful of that, and you really need to seek out the women and make sure they're comfortable once they're in those roles, so they don't exit the career in STEM, as we were mentioning on the earlier talk.
Thank you so much.
To add to that, I think that it's important for the managers also. We usually see that people are sponsoring, their employees in the company. I think that managers have this responsibility to maybe identify potential people in the organization that can eventually become a manager as well, and to support them either by giving them mentorship. I think sometimes women maybe doesn't have the tendency to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in a managing position. What's the process to get to that position? And I think that first of all, we should, as women, to raise our hand and to express that, because if you don't say it, we cannot assure that people will know that you are interested in a managing position or either position to just move up in the company. So that's one thing, because we usually see that from men, that men will identify and say, well, I see them in a few years from now taking those leadership roles. And one thing also, when in terms of recruitment, I think that the way that the job description is written, sometimes it's to be more inclusive. I think also to be aware of that. You were talking about bias, but I think it's also something that we don't have a tendency to think about. I think more and more companies are aware of that and trying to be more inclusive. But also when you look at the website, when you look at the promotion that they do you see diversity? Because that's also a way to say, well, do you see yourself in this company? So I think that more and more companies have to think ahead when they're recruiting, but also inside the organization to identify the talent and give them opportunities.
I just want to emphasize on the job description, how they are written, because I had to find a job very recently. And as I say, I'm not exactly in any box. I particularly liked the job description where there were a paragraph. A paragraph on women in general and people from minority tend to not apply for a job if they doesn't check all the boxes and all the requirements of the job description. And actually reading that in the job description, I felt really better because I was like, yeah, it's possible actually, because I meet none of those expectations, so I can apply to none of these jobs. And I was in a particular situation, so actually I even before I saw those adverts, I applied anyway. But previously in my career, I wouldn't have if I didn't see those kind of paragraph.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much for your experience and all your points of view. Actually, it's very interesting to see how you think as a director, because one perspective is like the director and another perspective is like us as trying to find a job or something. And actually, I want to share an experience that I had. It was approximately 2 months ago. So I'm looking for an internship and I went to a career fair. And I was walking, I don't want to say the name of the company, but I saw there was a nice stand from the company and they were saying, we are supporting women in AI. And I was like, okay. I just went straight to that person, I talked to them, he was the manager. It's like a very big company, and actually I got an interview. But I'm sure that I got the interview just because I went and I approached to him and I was like, hey, I like that you are supporting women in AI, give me an interview. And then when I wrote the cover letter, I actually was like, hey, and this is a tip if anyone is looking for an internship or a job. When doing the cover letter, it's like, this day I talked to this manager, I love the fact that you are supporting the values of the company, are supporting women, and this is if the company is advertising that, we definitely have to just go straight to it. So thank you so much. Yes?
Just to add something, if you know that there is in your team or in your company a woman that would like to be a manager, but maybe they're not supported by their manager, or they are afraid, so you are between colleagues, she mentioned that she would like to be a manager, she would like to change the position, with respect of her, so ask her before, however. Try also to help her, to support her, to say around, I'm pretty sure that this person will be amazing as a manager or another position, because we also need to have these friendship moments between colleagues.
Perfect, thank you so much. So we're going to our next question, and this is for Pamela. I promise this one is for you, sorry, it was my bad. So the question is, how do you approach the portrayal of female characters in your animations? And what impact do you hope they have on audiences?
Okay, so about the portrayal, I think that fortunately, during these times, this has been changing a lot in the animation industry and the gaming as well. At least on the projects that I've been working at lately, I haven't had to face portraying a damsel in distress. Nowadays, the type of stories that are being told are more about women that are fighting and that they have the power and that they have the strength to go ahead and face any challenge that they have in front. It doesn't mean that they are always alone, they always have a friend, but it's not like in the previous times where, I don't know, women were always portrayed in a way that were only for, I don't know, male gaze, or just like they need a male figure to go out, or that their last purpose was just to be married and be happy forever and ever, and that's it, no? So I think that nowadays, as my job is more like acting, but behind a computer, I'm being very fortunate to interpret characters that aren't weak, but they are more like persons, and you're talking about more the emotions that can generate like empathy with the audience that are watching them. For example, a previous project that I got to work at was Nimona. Not really sure if you're familiarized with it, but it was very nice because it wasn't just about like a girl. It was more about talking about identity. So me as an animator, my job is to have a lot of conversations as well with the director or the directors, depending on the project. They, along with the writers, are going to have like a whole review of how is this character. So they are going to pass us that description, and us as animators, as a big team, and well, in general for a film production, we will have to do to take all this information that we get from those characters and be consistent with those personalities that we are trying to do. So in the case of Nimona, we are talking about a character that is talking about being, I cannot really say herself, because Nimona can be a boy, Nimona can be a girl, Nimona can be a gorilla, Nimona can be whatever she wants to be. And every time that she's been asked, like, hey, who are you? Like, are you a monster? What are you? And she's always like, I'm Nimona. So you always have to stick to that character once you get those shots with her, because you don't have to show her like you just have to be natural with her personality. And well, I feel that nowadays the tendency on most of the movies that we've been seeing, and a lot of cartoons, they are trying to take this more about the personalities, more about the persons that they can develop on these characters and their stories, rather than to stick to stereotypes. So that's something that I think is changing on this industry.
Thank you. So it's super interesting what you were saying, because I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, but I have a performing arts background. Back in Colombia, I was doing performing arts. So for me, arts is literally like it's like trying to find yourself. So when we have animations and characters, it's like super important to actually say like, hey, there is someone who's actually feeling like me, and you feel like identified with that character. So I feel like it's super important when you're doing, also in terms of gender, in terms of, you know, looking at different like perspectives, some ways of feeling. So super interesting.
And I also, I think that is very important nowadays for future generations to have new references of like what a woman can do later on, or like that they don't have to look at other stuff that maybe when we were kids used to watch. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because I grew up watching the Disney princess. So you see the princess, she looks like this, and you are supposed to look like that, but you don't. So it's like these kind of narratives that are changing, which I personally love. So So thank you for that. We're going.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I agree. It's very good that representation of women are changing, but I actually have some issues with the representations that are now available, because it's very good to have like girl bosses and attractive woman character, but I would want to see more diversity in like, you can be charismatic and not be pretty. You can, and also, what is pretty? Like, there is different prettiness. Like, and there is different type of body, different type of like charisma. And so, what I'm kind of annoyed at right now, I'm very happy with all the representations that are here, but I'm still kind of hungry because. They are always pretty, they are always kind of perfect, and so it teaches women that if you want to be seen, if you want to exist, if you want to have value, you have to be pretty, you have to have makeup, you have to be like some kind of, you have to be feminine and stuff, and so I would want to see like more representation also of you can not make up and be pretty, or you can not make up and have charisma and it's fine, and like just like be human and be like your own person.
Yeah, thank you so much. I agree 100%. So we're going to the next question, and this one is for Emily. So, in what ways do you think gender biases might influence the interpretation of user research data, and how can researchers mitigate these biases?
When I'm hearing this type of question, my first reflex is like, oh, but we do have like, you know, scientific methodologies when we do recruitment. And I'm like, yeah, in research we have to make sure that we're looking into all type of diverse participant for our research, especially in games when it's not just for men. Video games are not just for men, but it's even earlier than that. Earlier than that, we need to think about how we can kind of educate our stakeholders. What I mean by that is, let's say that they have a specific question about a game or a feature, and with the best interest, they might ask you to do something like this or like this, and game user research is somewhat new in the gaming industry, and they don't know what you can do, how to do it, and sometimes when they might hear a participant saying something and they're like, oh, I really like what they are saying, can we ask them more questions, and I really want to have maybe like the recordings, and can we put more emphasis, and I'm like, no, sometimes it's one-on-one interview, sometimes it's group interviews, and it's really important that every voice matters, that every feedback, every survey responses, everything that we're currently doing is not about that person that you think is the best answer and what we want from our game. Let's say it's, no, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and we need to make sure that everybody has a voice, and you are, as a user research, kind of an advocate for the gamer and the players in the industry. So if a participant with all the wants to help your company, your game, why should this person matter more than another person, especially if person of color or woman or any other type of minorities? I'm like, no, this is important that everybody can speak freely and can give what they think. I'm not going to be like, oh, you in particular, I want to know more. It's my job to make sure everybody is heard, especially when we're trying to find what's wrong, what works in specific games.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emily, for that. Now I would like to ask Stella and Stéphanie, and this is the next question. How can we address the gender gap in programming education and encourage more girls to pursue coding from a young age?
So, of course, Stephanie has a lot to say about this topic, so I will let her cover all the more scientific or more mentorship type elements. But I'd like to talk about from a very, very young age. I have two boys, they're 8 and 6. See, I'm tired, I'm forgetting his age. But I've witnessed something in the last few years going to many toddlers' birthday parties. is the types of games we buy for girls and the types of games we buy for boys, okay? And I would blame myself as a parent for that, for example, but I've noticed it very much. Boys tend to get 50% scientific toys and 50%, let's call them entertainment, so I don't call them, you know, useless things that take up space in my basement. But they get that, right? And I go to the girls' birthday parties, because my sons are friends with a lot of girls. And, you know, these girls are getting, you know, dolls and makeup and mirrors and princess hats and whatever. And I've consciously started buying science kits and chemistry kits and microscopes for girls, because I don't feel like thank you. I mean, I can take no credit on this, except for the fact that I feel that from a very, very young age, you can be influenced one way or another, right? And unless the parent or guardian calls me and specifically says, I want you to buy her clothes, or I want you to buy her, I don't know, a doll or makeup, I will buy what I want, and I buy science-related toys, okay? I think it starts young. I think another thing we need to do is make sure our educational system, like from elementary, from high school, introduces coding in some form. The most basic fundamentals of coding a small board. You know, I see these things at the stores all the time, Toys R Us and all that, these little robots that can move a little bit. You don't need to do C++ in grade 4, but you can learn stuff that can make you curious. And I don't think it's going to make every woman go into programming, in all honesty, but I think it will encourage, you know, a few more than would have gone there, you know, to continue in that. So as you can see, ma'am, I believe very strongly in this. I know you're looking at me. The other thing I think that matters is representation. So you can't go in a class and we only talk about Alan Turing. Yeah, he's great, okay? But there's all these women coders, and some of the first coders at IBM, at Hewlett-Packard, at NASA, were all women. Where are their posters in our classes, okay? So those are my feelings about this, but now I will let someone who's far more specialized in this field and has a far more educated opinion than me on this to complement.
Well, I agree with you, Stella. I think definitely the fact that, you know, we give opportunities for girls to learn coding at a young age, and this is what we're trying to do. But every time I get asked that question, I always say that I don't think that it's not that the girls are not interested in technology. I think it's because they're not exposed. I'm sure that if I ask any of you how you got into this career, maybe a lot of you would have said, well, I stumbled upon, you know, this career. I discovered it while I was, you know, already in the workplace. And I think that because we're not exposed to it, and we don't know what are the possibilities in the tech sector, because we don't know anyone who's been in this before. I think that more and more, the fact that I see so many of us here today, I mean, it's encouraging in some way, because I think, okay, so now we see more and more young women thinking of going into a career in technology. But I think that the fact that we can expose them. And one thing also I feel is that just the way that we talk about technology, I don't get to hear that many times that we talk about it's a creative field. I think it's a great way to express, you know, ourselves. And technology is not about just being in front of a computer and writing code, but there's so many, you know, you're creating an image. How do you say, an espace imaginaire, and that, you know, what you see in your imagination, you can create it. You can, you know, create some of those environments that can be either like in a space like this, or, you know, it can be in the metaverse, or things like that. I think that when we talk about technology, I think we should expand it and to say how, you know, this can have a positive impact also in our lives. And I think that's something that also that draws young girls. What I see when we teach is that the possibilities that technology can offer. I think it's not technology just in a closed environment, but it's more like, how do I relate to this in my day-to-day life? So I think that giving those opportunities, and also, I think you mentioned, or someone's mentioned, role models. I think to see more women also in this field, and to have that diversity, as you were mentioning, Virginie, is important, because there's many of us, we don't think the same, we don't see the world the same, but I think it's important that all those voices are expressed. And when we get to have mentorship, when we have those young girls who can have a chance to speak with someone who's already in the field, and to have those women go in the schools and talk about their journey. I'm sure that a lot of you are in the tech field, but you probably didn't start in the tech field. So what is your journey? What made you come and get into this journey? I don't have a tech background, and certainly, I've been surrounded by women in the tech to make me understand what it is, but since I've discovered that there's so many amazing things, but I think that it's all this array of possibilities that we need to teach young girls at a young age, and I think that will just open up their views about what's out there, and that can encourage them to go into this field.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that, because I want to share something with you. It was like probably 2-3 months ago. I went to a Latinas in Tech networking, and I was talking to a lady. We were discussing, and I was like kind of complaining. I was like, oh, I wish I was like exposed to programming when I was like back in high school, because I started to program when I was like 25. It was very hard to, change this from this abstract to this. If you code, you know what I mean. So it was like very hard, to take this, to think like a programmer. And then she told me like, oh, but there is like an organization, a non-profit organization that is doing this already. It's called Technovation Montréal. And guess what? Stephanie, she's the co-founder. So a round of applause, please. Because the work that they're doing is amazing. So basically, you correct me if I'm wrong, but they're doing workshops, they're like exposing their girls to coding, to be like a project, and actually not just actually programming and building a project, but actually turning this idea into a business idea. So imagine like what you're doing has like a huge impact. And I'm just want to say like I'm very grateful, because I wish someone was doing this when I was like younger. And it's exactly what you're saying. Oh, I think it was Stella that was saying like it doesn't mean that you have to work in tech, but at least be exposed. You get a touch of it. If you don't like it, okay, that's fine. But what if you love it? And then you just start discovering like a world of endless possibilities and creativity, innovation. It's just amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I definitely think as well that in high school or even earlier we could have like, as we have mathematical classes, we could have algorithmic very like simple, and it should be like as math or physics, because like it's important, and I haven't been exposed as a like teenager to that, and I discovered that quite late, and I would have loved to have that at school. And also, being in the video game industry, in my previous work, I saw that they were doing like visits of the studio by young teenagers from high school or even like primary school. And I actually thought it was really good, because also video game industry is kind of seen, or even animation, is kind of seen as something unreachable, like maybe a dream job that you can't access, or even like your parents will be like, oh, it's not a real job, so like do something else or go to a real company. And so it's really important that a video game studio kind of advertise themselves by doing those kind of visits to expose young children and women to those kind of fields, and make them see that also there is women in those kind of jobs, and it's possible, and it's a real job.
Just one last thing to mention. I think that I consider myself fortunate, because since in the school that I went to, my group and me, we were exposed to new technologies, and we had a teacher that he at that time was a very fan of Apple, and he always looked for ways to bring new technology and try to implement it since we were kids. And he started exploring not like different areas for that, and I think that was the reason why I started really liking animation, because he started like also implementing things that were related to that, to programming websites. And also I think that the fact that in my family they start exposing me to technology, to computers when they were like, I don't know, when we were starting with internet. I don't. It really started bringing me my curiosity to explore the technology, but maybe on the art field. So I think it's very important what you are doing, just to bring these new technologies, because that the same way that my teacher inspired me to pursue my career, I think that what you are doing is gonna make other people, other women to grow and get more curious about what different implementations they can do.
Thank you. I would like to piggyback on what Virginie said, because it's true that we forget that parents also have a major influence on what their children will do or study, and we realize that we need also to in some ways educate the parents, because there are some fields, as you say, the video game industry, because usually we'll say, oh, how you spend too much time in front of the screen and it's not good. But I mean, the video game industry is one of the biggest industry in the creative field, and people don't always realize that, you know, you can make a great career and that it's very a lucrative career. So we try to welcome the parents when we do the workshop, to introduce them to what is the industry in general, so they have a better understanding that there's are opportunities for job in this industry. So this way they can see that, okay, but they're not just playing a video game, but they can also learn that one day they can enter this field and have a real job. So I think it's very important what you mentioned.
Thank you so much. So right now we're gonna get some questions from the panel. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, and there you go.
I have a question for everyone on the panel. Can you name one or two things you wish you had known when you started your career, or maybe something you wish you have done differently that would have helped you to grow?
You want me to start?
You can start. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we have.
Yeah, I would say never take anything for granted. Always speak up for what you want, like whether it's that next step, whether it's your long-term, I think you mentioned that, your long-term intention to become a manager or go to the next step. People cannot read your mind, and they always, when they choose to identify, you know, the high potentials or the people that they think are going to be the next ones to take their place, they tend to identify with well, at the moment, young men that remind them of themselves the most, right? So they're not thinking, is there a high potential woman on my team necessarily? So women have to speak up twice as much and say from day one, you know, yeah, I'm doing this now, but 3 years from now, I want to manage my own team of developers, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and what do you recommend? Who should be my mentor? No one is going to read your mind. No one thinks that you're like career motivated necessarily, no matter what you do. Like I used to do stuff like take 20 weeks maternity leave or something. And whether I had taken 20 weeks or a year and a half, it would have made no difference. It was like, oh, well, she took a break, so, you know. Whereas in my mind, I was like, wow, you know, like, okay, I'm back after 4.5 months, 5 months. That means, oh, they see that I'm so driven. They see nothing. Okay? So they're not thinking of you, and no offense to anybody. I mean, unless you're really close to your manager and they know everything about your reflections, you really got to speak up for yourself, and you got to search for mentors. You got to search for sponsors. Different mentors, advice, sponsors. What Stéphanie has said, they walk in a room and they say, Stéphanie would be the best next director for your department. I think they're amazing, and they'll speak for you in those rooms, because all the things that are very important in your career happen in rooms where you will not be. Okay? Who is speaking on your behalf in those rooms? That's all I can say to you. Look for those early in your career and speak up for yourself every chance you get. Same thing for salary reviews, same things for opportunities.
I would say seize opportunities. Sometimes you'll see something pass in front of you, or maybe someone will come to you and propose you to do something, whether it's like to start a new project or whether it's to join a committee and to get involved. And I know sometimes like we have the tendency to say, well, oh, I don't have all the requirements, I don't have all that experience, I don't think I can do it. And I think that, I would say that personally, a lot of the things that I did, I wouldn't say that I had the experience at the moment or I thought that I didn't have, but I just loved this opportunity and I said I just jumped on it and I said, you know what, I'll seek experience from other people. I'll reach out to my network, ask questions. I'll surround myself with people who have the knowledge that can help me get to where I want to go. And I think that sometimes we let go of some great opportunities because, the fear that we might not be able to accomplish it or the fear that we don't have all the experience. But some of those great way to grow in your career is seizing those opportunities and you figure it out along the way. I think that most of the times that we do things like we don't necessarily have all the information, but we just figure it out along the way. So that's what I would say to you. I mean, if you get an opportunity to go to a conference or to just go abroad and take this experience, or just to be in a place like here today and just have a chance to go and meet and go to ask someone that you say, hey, what she said was interesting, I just want to go and ask her a question. Don't hesitate. Reach out to people on LinkedIn. Reach out to people, on those different networks as well. I feel that, people are so open to share their experience with others. So yeah, that's one advice I would say.
In my case, I think it would be the same. I like speak out. I think that, and don't take things personally at work. Especially I feel that at the beginning of my career, that was something that I kind of struggled, but until someone came to me and told me, like, never take anything personal from work, just take the best of it, learn from it, learn how to accept the feedback, and that's gonna help you to continue growing in your career. And I think it's an advice that I apply nowadays. And the part of the speaking out is, I think that there were many times that because I was starting, I didn't know, I was a bit scared as well. I didn't say things that nowadays I would say, like, oh, maybe you should have said this, or maybe you should have mentioned things to your leaders or your managers, because indeed nobody's gonna read your mind, as you were mentioning. And I think it's very important that you always stand for yourself in your career, and first of all, always look for yourself, because at the end, it's about your life and your career and your growth.
I think what I will say to my younger self, but also to me now, because I'm still struggling with it, is accept to not be perfect. Because we tend to want to be perfect, and at school kind of always I've been a good student without not making so much effort. But at school it's easy to meet the requirement because already you know what the requirement is. But when you start to work, you don't know anymore what the requirement is, because you are given tasks to do. But the task, there is always the perfection that is unattainable. And so you can be there and it will be fine for everybody, but you want to be there. And if you are not there, you feel like you are shit, you shouldn't be there. And so then you begin to be in burnout and stuff, because you feel like you shouldn't be there, and there is the imposter syndrome that is starting to kick in. And so I think most of people that have imposter syndrome is actually we don't teach at school that you can't be perfect, and it's okay to not know, it's okay to ask for help. and it's okay to like make mistakes, because mistakes is opportunity for learning. And it's easy to say, but it's hard to do, even now.
Yeah, true. Thank you so much. And Emily? And then probably we can take one more question after. Yes.
Yes. I'm coming from academic backgrounds, and nobody told me how much research in video games, research in academia, and research in video game in the industry is absolutely not the same. I'm not saying there's one better than the other, it's just completely different. The way you approach things, the way, like, your focus, the time you have to do any type of studies. And nobody, like, they don't teach you how to build trust, how to build, like, collaborations, and it's like the main thing. It's the main thing I have to do every single day with all the partners that I have when I'm working. And this is the thing, I'm like, you know what? A bit like everyone has said before, you're gonna make mistake, and people will not agree with you. And you know what? It's perfectly fine. Do those mistakes. You have opportunities. Don't wait for somebody to tell you, yeah, go for it. Don't wait for your partners, your parents, your boss. Nobody will tell you, go ahead. You want to do that conference? Do it. You want to write that article? Do it. Yeah. Like one of the haha moment is like when I decided to do my first conference as a game user research for the Game User Research Summit, and this is where I'm like, oh, should I do it? It's stupid. No, it's not stupid. It was one of the best things that happened to me as a professional. And some people had told me, like, you know, to do those kind of conference, you might have to wait a few years, you know, to build credibility, to know and learn. And I'm like, no, I have the specialties and I want to share it, and I know that it's great and I should do it. So again, like you said before, I absolutely agree. And you know what? It's not the perfect conference ever. I don't care. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to learn from it, and I hope it's inspired you to do the same.
It's always the best part when you are the last one and they already said everything, but it's okay. So what I would say, trust yourself, even if you have your boss that is saying, no, you cannot go to this position, or you cannot, like, you are not at that level. Who cares? Like, I mean, your boss has a vision, and his, her vision is not yours. And especially what I will say is, your life is not your work. If you want to do something, you can do also after the work. And then probably after all this, it will become a job, but you can start even without a job. So we have only one life. If you want to learn stuff, if you want to test stuff, do it. you have all the time to do it, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be the perfect one. Perfection, it doesn't exist. If I think about AI, and I think generative AI, NLP, we have a new model every 2 weeks. We are not expert because we have a lot of releases. Be your best, and just try to have pleasure on what you are doing, because at the end of the day, you will spend 8 hours, 10 hours at work, then you go back home and you should be happy on what you are doing. You should be happy on how you are living your life. And again, don't be afraid to do new stuff.
I just want to add something, and it's like they say that as we grow, the things that we regret most is those that we don't do. So it's like, just go for it. Like, what is the worst thing that could happen? That it doesn't go as you wanted it to go, but it's fine. Like, we always learn, like, so that's it. Okay, so who wants to ask a second question?
Hi,
So first of all, I wanted to really say thank you for calling it out. It's really important for also not just like societal level to try to get girls into STEM, but also to educated parents. So my personal story is that I was really good with computers from the time I was like 5. But then when I was finishing high school, someone really close in my family was like, you shouldn't go into engineering. You don't have the personality for it. So don't do that to your kids. So educate your parents, people around you. Join initiatives such as Stephanie's, Technovation. We need mentors. It's super important. Now the question. I wanted to ask, how would you define a programmer in a way that it doesn't exclude little girls and young women and women later in life? How would you define that? And then how do you think we can change the perception that we have today to get to that ideal image of what a programmer or someone in tech should be?
Testing.
I'm the problem, definitely.
So I would say, to me, I would call a programmer a creative problem solver using technology to achieve, to arrive at their means. That's all it ever is, really. I mean, it's a language like any other language. I remember when I started my master's, they asked me to do it in Fortran. They said to me, do you know Fortran 77? And I had done 7 languages during university, even though as an electrical engineer, that's fairly uncommon, by the way. At Polytechnique, those years was very, very into coding languages. And I remember telling my professor, oh, I don't know about that conference. I wasn't born in 77. And he looked at me like, oh boy, we've got a long way ahead of us, So you learn Fortran, and so what? It doesn't change the problem you're trying to solve, right? So it's a creative problem-solving approach that one uses in order to arrive at a solution. Maybe I'm not saying it as well as the techier folks that have been doing software development longer than me would describe it, but it's my vulgarisation, if you will, if you'll allow me for that.
Actually, it's exactly what I was going to say, so perfect definition.
So, thank you so much. Please, a round of applauses for our amazing panelists.
Can we have a double applause because this was her first time as a moderator? Wow. Woo, Sophia, woo! I really like that I can say this out loud, so when you will edit the video, it will be, yeah.
Actually, I just thought about something. I just want to say, the job of a coder is not actually just coding. I think the speaker, earlier mentioned it, but it's actually also learning about the domain that you are coding for. And also, it can be also learning to teach others, because you will write documentation and stuff like that. And usually, from my experience, women are pretty good for that. But so maybe we can also say to young girls that coding is not just write code. It's also actually a lot of other things.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. So, thank you again for paying attention, for spending your time here. I know it's Saturday. We all woke up super early, and it's amazing. So now we can just go to the networking session, do some connections. We have a prize too. Are we doing the prize right now?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to do it?
You want to do it tomorrow?
Okay.
So yeah, we are going to do the prize. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your participation. And now enjoy the networking session while I will do the prize. Thank you all.